Hey guys, welcome back to the Workbench. This is where we discuss ceiling fan history, trivia, and technical information. Today we're going to talk about Panasonic, KDK, and the Tennessee Fan Company. I have a prop. And actually, I don't know if you can see, I'm not sure if I can swivel the camera over. There's a Panasonic box on my Workbench that is supposed to be part of the Workbench art, but it isn't always in frame. There's another part of it back there. Yeah, so let's talk about Panasonic, KDK, etc. These fans are pretty well known among collectors. I think it's known to be one of the very few companies that imported fans and or parts to make fans and made them here from Japan. Japanese fans are less common than fans of other origins. Let's get into it. So 1980 was the first year of KDK ceiling fans. KDK was the brand name that Panasonic used initially for their fan line. The first fan that they introduced was the side mount design with kind of the floral design on the bottom. I've seen people compare them to a Kodak Galaxy. They have the really interesting stencil, two-piece skinny canopy. I've never had a complete one. I've had parts to one before. You probably know the one I'm talking about. If not, I'll post pictures in the advertising slideshows and on Facebook. But that model is called the Deluxe. That model was introduced under the KDK name, not the Panasonic name, in 1980. Matsushita, the parent company of KDK and Panasonic, in 1980, built a facility in Tennessee in order to start the Tennessee Fan Company. The idea was they were going to do something kind of like what Lasco did, where they imported the parts and built the fans here rather than importing the entire fans. However, they weren't doing that yet. At this point, they were still building the fans in Japan and importing them under the KDK name. Tennessee Fan Company had not started yet. They had just built the building. 1981, KDK is still offering only one model fan in the US called the Deluxe, the same one we talked about before. Side mount, kind of floral vents on the bottom, nose kind of like a pig snout. You get the idea. Panasonic ceiling fans under the Panasonic name are introduced in 1981, and it is this version but in solid brass only. This is a pretty well-known version to collectors, and there are very few collectors that have one, and I don't think anybody has a brass one. There are some photos that have circulated from the 80s or 90s that a collector had these in his home and was obsessed with them. I've seen these photos and also badly wanted one. This is the closest I've come. I have this motor, was actually in this box. It was new in box, but it did not come with blades and brackets. I actually got some brackets cast. This is on my list of projects to do because I'll have to drill and tap the holes and everything like that. But this is a copy of I believe a Westinghouse ceiling fan where the blades mount to the outside of the motor there. In these videos from now on, we'll probably refer to this as the lyre fan because a collector pointed out that this is shaped kind of like a lyre. L-Y-R-E, not a liar like somebody who's selling fans dishonestly. We know a few of those too. We will call this the lyre fan. I think that's how I have it in my notes. Anyhow, here's the motor. There's repop bracket, and the blades are fairly generic. But again, that was the only model offered under the Panasonic name in 81, and it was only offered in brass. And by the way, of course, if you have one in brass or a complete one of any type, I am interested. Comment or email me, I will buy it, and then you will see it in a test video, which hopefully will be great. Tennessee Fan Company is operational but not yet selling fans under its own name. That is 1981. So, just to clarify, 1980, KDK fans only, the side mount version. The factory is built for Tennessee Fan Company, no fans sold yet. 1981, KDK is still selling the same model, the Deluxe. Panasonic is selling this. Tennessee Fan Company is building fans but not selling them yet. And again, they're all Matsushita. They're all the same parent company selling fans in different ways. 1982. KDK now introduces the Renaissance collection, which is a fan that's very similar to this, but ornate on the bottom. I've had a few of them in videos. Other collectors have had them. They're probably the most common of the early KDK Panasonic styles. I don't know how else to describe them. There's one in the museum. Just basically an ornate fan that's kind of similar in design to this. They're pretty cool. I like them. I still like this better probably because this was such an interesting part of my childhood with another collector that had them in their house. But I digress. So that's the Renaissance collection. That's what the ornate model is called. That's being sold as KDK. It replaces the side mount fan. Panasonic is still only selling this in brass only. That is 1982. In 1982, the Tennessee Fan Company employees are learning calisthenics. They're learning the company song and attending classes on the company history and philosophy. Japanese culture is very different than American culture, and Japanese corporate culture in terms of being employed by a corporation is very different than being employed by a corporation in America. I thought that was very important to point out, that they're now 2 years in. Fans aren't being sold under their name yet, but the employees are learning the company song. Things are very different in Japan. They were trying it here. Let's move forward to 1983. 1983 is a big transitional year. KDK is no longer the name of the fans sold in the US. They are now KDK by Tennessee Fan Company. They introduced the Knight, the Gallahad, the King Arthur, the Lancelot, the Excalibur. The ornate fan is still being sold, but it's now being called the Royal. And sometimes the entire lineup is called the Renaissance Collection. So you may remember the ornate fan was previously called the Renaissance Collection. Now they've issued the lineup of fans that most of us are familiar with as being the most common Panasonic, KDK, Tennessee Fan Company fans, the GE Vent ones and all of that. That entire collection now takes the name of the Renaissance Collection. However, under the Panasonic name, this is still the only fan being sold. And again, these are all the same company. The Panasonics are presumably, I think they're all made in Japan. Is this one made in Japan? Nice to have a prop. Yep, the Panasonics are all made in Japan. Tennessee Fan Company ones are made in Tennessee using Japanese parts. Most of the KDK stuff up until the Tennessee Fan Company was fully made in Japan. But then once they transitioned to the Tennessee Fan Company, a lot of that was assembled in Tennessee. That's 1983. Let's go to 1984. The side mount KDK, the Deluxe, the first KDK that we ever saw, makes an appearance in advertisements again, but possibly it's just clearance and closeout and old stock. They probably are not making that fan anymore in 84. Otherwise, in 84, KDK, aka the Tennessee Fan Company, is still the 1983 model lineup with all the fans we're familiar with, the King Arthur and the Knight and all of that. I also find it interesting that they're all kind of medieval names. The Knight and the Gallahad, the King Arthur, the Lancelot. It's all very Camelot, jousty, you know. I wonder what they were going for there. Tennessee Fan Company is starting to announce layoffs. Already in 1984, this is only the second year of them actually selling fans under their name. But again, this is now the third or fourth year of being in business. 1985. KDK newspaper art is the Deluxe, the side mount, but again, that's just newspaper art. The Renaissance, the ornate one, as well as now there are generic import fans showing up, sold as KDK, and the model number is called the Casbah. That's 1985. 1985 is the first big year for Panasonic fans, which again are still made in Japan. Panasonic fans are now being sold at major retailers, including Macy's. And Panasonic fans, under the Panasonic name, are now selling the full lineup that was being sold under the Tennessee Fan Company. So, reading between the lines, what it seems like is that maybe building them here the Japanese way wasn't working, and they went back to building them in Japan, but with the new model lineup. That's unconfirmed, that's a theory, but that's what the information suggests. That's 85. 1986. KDK, the brand, is closeout only. They're only selling things labeled KDK on closeout. Panasonic is still huge. It's the regular lineup, and there are no more mentions of the Tennessee Fan Company in 1986. The plant in Tennessee is officially closed. In 1987, ads claim an all-new 1987 lineup for Panasonic, but the pictures are still the same. They're still the 1983 lineup, the King Arthur and the Knight and all of that. That is 87. In 1988, the same ads appear as 87, but now Panasonic fans are showing up on closeout as well. 1989, Panasonic fans are officially on closeout. And 1989 is the last year of Panasonic fans by any name. So, just to summarize, it's very interesting. They started out selling fans under the KDK name. They introduced fans under the Panasonic name. They introduced a new model lineup under KDK by Tennessee Fan Company or Tennessee Fan Company by KDK. Then they moved that lineup to Panasonic and discontinued everything else, and then discontinued everything. Interesting run. I don't think I knew there was quite this much history involved in these fans. I assumed they were all just made in Japan and just had stamped different names on them and shipped them here. So I'm glad that I researched this topic. I hope you're glad too. If you are, please like, comment, and subscribe. Please don't forget to support this as a podcast everywhere your podcasts are sold. Don't forget to go to patreon.com/dspiffy to learn more stuff and see some content that's not available publicly. As always, please continue to buy Fanstick. Thanks for watching.